IB Nation, welcome to the post-game show for Notre Dame's 21-10 defeat at the hands of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I am Ryan Roberts, your Director of Recruiting here at IrishBreakdown.com. Of course, joined by Mr. Brian Driscoll, straight from the game, just got to the hotel room, the publisher here at IrishBreakdown.com, and Mr. Sean Davis, recruiting analyst here at the site as well. So, fellas, I think that we're not going to beat around the bush too much. I think that there are definitely some positives that you can take from this game, but there is a lot of things that we need to hash out here. And I think, Brian, for me, the big thing is missed opportunities in this affair, right? I mean, you're in a situation where you're leading 10-7 at halftime, and you feel like you have a lot of momentum going into the second half, and there's opportunities throughout that second half, to kind of distance yourself. And Notre Dame was not able to do that tonight. So it's a very disappointing outcome. And I think we can parlay this one to a lot of missed opportunities here tonight.
I mean, that's the reality of this game, guys. I mean, you're talking about, look, there's things we're going to take from this that are positives, and there's things that are not positives, and we're going to try to keep it as honest as possible. But, I mean, it's hard not to be kind of ticked off right now, because you look at this football game, and if I'd have told you before the game that Notre Dame would have held Ohio State to 21 points, they would have had seven points basically for 2.5 quarters, you'd have thought Notre Dame was going to cover the spread that everybody had for Ohio State. And the reality is, Sean, when you look at this game, it's another missed opportunity for Notre Dame in a big moment to go out there and get over that hump. And it's not just, it's a big picture missed opportunity that involves constant missed opportunities on the field. And it's the same story we've seen over and over again, Sean, for a long time. It's defense does what it needs to do to have a chance to win a big game, and the offense doesn't get it done. And, we'll get into specifics of things that went well, things that didn't go well at the end of the day. But when you hold Ohio State to 21 points and you make C.J. Stroud look like a pretty just average quarterback for the most part, I mean, these are the games you can't afford to lose, Sean. When your defense plays that way, I mean, you can't afford to lose. To me, it was unacceptable to see them lose. They should have won this game, and I just felt like they didn't do the things they needed to do offensively to make it happen, and it was just really, really, really frustrating.
Can we go to the first series?
Yeah. Which side, offense or defense?
Offense.
Yeah.
You pop the big play, run up the middle, run. All the Irish fans out there, I thought I felt bad after the Georgia game in 19. I have no emotions, Brian, and that's I'm like just stuck. I'm stuck. I'm not angry. I'm not mad. It's just like, man, it's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
When is it going to change? It has to change. And we talk about the impact and opportunities to win the game. We talk about impact to impress or recruiting. It's like, it's just, man, you just sit there and say, yeah. All right, next week, home opener. Okay. Because and I'll point to this is what I was disappointed in most. After the game, I said to myself, there are some positives, and we'll get to it, right? A certain unit that most people were really worried about going to this game thought they showed themselves very well. Gave up some plays. But you're going to do that against a good offense. Heck, it's a reason why the dude might end up being the first overall pick in NFL draft. He made some plays in the fourth quarter.
And they made him earn them. Made him earn them.
Yeah. But when in the post game, when I hear, quote, we wanted to run the ball and play good defense and stop the big plays. And we did that for the most part. We came out the first drive in the second half, and we moved the ball got into that territory, and punted, and I was pleased with that. That's when I was like, you know what? I'm done.
Was that Coach Freeman that said that?
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Either you don't know the things that you can't say
right
at Notre Dame, or you really believe that. Like, you're up 10-7 with an opportunity to put them down 10 with the way your defense was playing.
That's ball game at that point in time.
Yeah, you're pleased with getting to the Ohio State 36 and punting?
They were playing field position all night, Sean. All night. And look, like early in the game, I understood being a little conservative the first couple times you were backed up. But you realized pretty quickly that your defense came to play.
Yes.
Which should give you the ability to say, hey, look, let's take some shots. And I just don't see how a game ends where Matt Salerno has as many deep shot throws to him as more deep shots throws to him than Braden Lindsey. And they were baiting him into it all night long. I mean, they were giving – if you were at the game, you'd have seen they were playing basically zero to the field the whole night long. The whole night long. And it seemed like a game plan that was you're playing to keep it tight and hope you can wear them down in the fourth quarter. Well, that's what Ohio State did to Notre Dame. You know, they wore the defense down in the fourth quarter. You had opportunities to go out there and, you know, and part of me hopes, you know, somebody said this, part of me hopes he was just kind of protecting his coaches. You know, that's part of me, and then he's going to go into that locker room and fix it. But at the end of the day, I want to see some things said publicly that they've got to change because, again, you know, you wanted to run the ball, fine. Ohio State knew you wanted to run the ball, and they were playing 8-9-man boxes the whole game. You know, like there was a play, the play to Salerno that they had the offensive PI. You had cover zero to the field. Braden Lindsey gets a corner with nobody on. They threw it deep to Braden Lindsey once, and what did he do? Beat a guy for a 32-yard gain. You know, it's like it just there wasn't a lot of the stuff that we have seen in the past that I thought was going to work. There was not a lot of like levels. It was all like horizontal stretch stuff. It was frustrating because it seemed to be very – I mean, conservative is saying one thing, but it just like I understand you want to put too much on the kid's shoulders, but I thought early on Buckner showed he was ready to play. You know, and at some point in time, you had every opportunity to put this game away, and you weren't not only could you not do it, which is part of it. We'll get into individual position groups here in a minute, guys, but it looked like you weren't willing to do it. You know, like you said, Sean, you 3 and out coming out of the half. Your defense had two like it's sitting there 10-7 late in the second quarter. I'm thinking if Ohio State goes down there and puts us in the end zone, this could end up looking bad because then they start in the second half with the ball. Held them to a field goal, and they come out the second half, and it's 3 and out. 3 and out. Defense looks great. Again, made some adjustments. They had C.J. Stroud uncomfortable all night long. He didn't know where he was going with the ball. And there's going to be some things we're going to talk about that were some really positives to take out of this game. But you like you said, you get into you come out, you throw deep early on that drive, which is okay. Looks good, but you end up getting a personal foul that gets you into the end zone, and then it's a quick pitch to Audric Estime, a blown pass protection up the middle again, and then a forced throw by Tyler, and it's like, you know, you're punting, and then you get down again, and you know Mayer catches the ball and you know fumbles it, and you can't take advantage of that drive, and it just was like it's like they didn't want to put the game away. It's like they were unwilling to take a shot, guys. That may have gone poorly because they were afraid to – it's like I don't know if they were afraid to turn the ball over or if they didn't want to put that on Tyler. I don't know. But they just – whenever they had a chance, I mean, first drive, they get down in the red zone. They're playing cover zero on first and second down, and Notre Dame just run up the middle, and got no push. Just I'll say this. I was – pleased. I thought this team played hard. I thought it was a physical game. But the fact of the matter is that's a moral victory. And as I said in the show today and the show yesterday, I'm sick of moral victories. I mean, look, it's game 1 of Freeman's tenure, basically. we'll see if they grow and develop. But you had a great opportunity to make a statement today, fellas, and they just were unwilling to do what it took to make it. So,
Brian,
yeah, go ahead.
I just felt like I knew at halftime, I said to myself, this 10-7 this isn't it. Like,
right.
They've played good enough to be up more than 10-7.
Yeah.
And so they come out, and like you, I'm like, okay, Ohio State gets the ball. Like, this is going to be a huge stop to start the half. And we get the ball, and Ohio State is ready to implode. They gift you yardage. They get a personal foul. They're gifting you yardage. They move you into Ohio State territory. And it was almost like you don't want to take what they're giving you. You just don't. And this is the worst thing, because as a Bulls fan, you know how I used to feel? I used to feel like if you weren't up 10 going to the fourth, we have 23.
Mm-hmm.
And we said in conversation, you and I talked, and we felt like that they could make it hard on Ohio State and put C.J. Stroud in a position to almost have to be perfect.
And that's what happened.
And that's exactly what he did. And that's why he is C.J. Stroud,
right.
Heisman candidate, probable number 1 overall pick.
Right.
He had to be perfect down the stretch. He was, and they came away with the victory. But you should have never been in that position.
He should have been having to play from the pocket the last 30 minutes of the game. Absolutely. Because you were up 2 to 3 scores and you could pin your ears back. The fact that you allowed Ohio State to keep that game balanced in the second half with their run game, and they shouldn't have been able to lean on the run game in the second half. And that's the frustrating thing. Look, we're gonna have a lot to talk about tonight, guys. I want to let's we talked a little bit picture. Let's rally this in and let's talk about some things that we like. Let's go defense first, then we'll just kind of talk about the defense, and then we're gonna finish with the offense, because I know that's where a lot of people want to talk, and I want to talk about that too. But I do want to talk about the defense. Some good things, some bad things. Number one, I thought Al Golden out-coached Ryan Day for most of the game. At the end, they just kind of wore Notre Dame down. With their run game, they wore Notre Dame down. He had C.J. Stroud guessing all night long, just all night long. He was so uncomfortable because I didn't think they got good pressure on him for most of the night. Howard Tross had an early sack. Riley Mills had some really good pressures in the game, but like Isaiah Foskey was basically, I just didn't see anything from him. I didn't see much from Jason Adamiola in the game. Mm-hmm. Some of the fires that they had, the linebacker fires were the timing wasn't right, which is going to happen in the opener. But I just thought that some of the other guys stepped up, fellas. And I thought the biggest thing for me was outside of Cam Hart early, he just made a terrible read on that stop route. I mean, he just tries to undercut it. He was not close. He shouldn't have made that play. After that, I thought the secondary was great. And Brandon Joseph is as advertised. Absolutely. And fellas, I'm going to say something. I was high on Benjamin Morrison. I said he was a dude. I undersold him. He was a straight stud in this game tonight. Mm-hmm. They tried to go at him, and he was locking Ohio State's receivers down. He was their best corner tonight. And he was their best outside corner.
Yeah, because Tariq was crazy.
Tariq was outstanding. And the one touchdown they had, and this is my biggest beef with Al Golden in this game, and there may have been a miscommunication because he goes down, and I looked at Vince. Vince will tell you, I said, they're going to go right at the slot. They're going to go right at the slot because Tariq's out, and and before Jackson Smith and Jigabee got hurt, he was locking him down.
Yep.
Tariq was tremendous in this game, which we talked about during the week he needed to be. And the next play, they ran a safety fire from deep. Now, I don't think it was meant to be from that deep. I think he was supposed to come down, but Ohio State snapped the ball quickly, which was smart by them. And Brandon Joseph came from depth. Jaden Mickey got smoked on that play, but it looked to me, Vince and I were talking about this, he played that post like he thought he had inside help.
Correct.
Right. Both safeties fired.
Yes.
It was almost like they both thought they were the one.
Somebody was supposed to roll to the middle. Jaden thought he had help over the because he gave the post to that guy. Ryan, did you see that play? He gave the post to that guy. So it wasn't that he got smoked. Like I said, it looked like I meant to say at the beginning, it looked like he got smoked. I said he got smoked. I meant to say he looked like he got smoked. He was giving the inside post away. You only give the inside post like that as a nickel because you're protecting against the outside because you think you have help inside.
Correct.
And so
he didn't have inside leverage at all on that.
Then there was some more sort of miscommunication there.
If you know, as a corner, if you know that you don't have safety help, you're playing inside leverage on that all day long.
And you're going to force the throw to the outside.
Absolutely, because that's a harder throw. The throw to the inside, the throw to the seam is an easy throw. That's a pitch and catch. And he gave it to him because he thought he had inside help. So I don't know who was wrong. Did Al Golden really send both safeties? Did he only send one?
I don't think he did. There's no way. Not in that situation.
And that's what I'm saying. So obviously one of the safeties went and they weren't
right. So Vince, you kind of paused on us, man.
And that's why Jaden Mickey thought he had help over the middle. So okay. Yeah, I've got low signal here apparently.
You're back now.
No, but what I was what I was saying was it was clear he thought he had safety help. No corner plays that if they don't think that they have safety help. And it's a miscommunication. And unfortunately, Ohio State took advantage of it. And it was a huge momentum swing, swing, because that put them up. And that's the tough part.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even Brian, even through the miscommunication though, on that one play, I mean, I if we're going to take a positive from the night, everybody going into this game, we kept talking about Clarence Lewis. I mean, secondary was good, man. Like, it was good. It really was. I mean, like you said, Cam Hart had a couple plays early, and I think it was smart of Ohio State. They kind of went at Cam because I thought they were going to go into that game and be like, nope, we're good with 5. Let's go somewhere else. They went at him, which I think they took him a little bit off guard, and they made a couple plays. Good for them. But I mean, I think for the most part, Notre Dame quieted a little bit of the secondary concerns, man. Like, they have some guys that can play, and I think that you saw that tonight. So if you're going to take a positive out of the defensive effort, I thought Al Golden called a really good game for the most part. I thought the secondary came to play today. I thought they really did.
I mean, here's the deal. You held Ohio State to 21 points, and you held Ohio State, I'm trying to look for the total yards here, guys, to 395 yards of offense.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, that's at home. At home. Like, people wanted to know why I thought that they were going to win this game. It's because I thought the defense could slow them down, and they slowed them down even more than I thought they were going to slow them down, guys. I mean, I'm looking at Ohio State now. The lowest yards total they had last year was 458 yards against Michigan. The last time Ohio State was held in the 300s in total offense was the Alabama game, the national title game in 2019. And before that, the last time they were held in the 300s, you have to go all the way back to Washington in the Rose Bowl back in 2018. And you held them to under 400 yards and 21 points. And you did it because you outplayed them in a lot of ways, and you made C.J. Stroud make money plays late. And as mediocre as he was for most of the game, we all agree he made those plays late. And he had to fit balls into tight windows. When Notre Dame guys were getting beat late, they were getting beat because C.J. was just putting the ball where they didn't have a chance, and they made those plays, and Notre Dame's guys didn't. So but you did that without Isaiah Foskey doing hardly anything. Jason Adamiola didn't do much. Your linebacker play was disappointing and underwhelming. In my opinion, their inability to get off blocks was frustrating, to say the least. All those things can be improved upon. The positive, as Ryan said, guys, is the secondary played really well. And he was going against Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka all night. And they tested Benjamin Morrison time and time again, and he was excellent. They tried to go after Clarence Lewis a couple times deep, and he was blanketed them. So that's a positive takeaway. They beat Cam a couple times early, and that was pretty much it. But Benjamin Morrison's the real deal, fellas. He is the real deal, and that's definitely a good takeaway from tonight.
And your secondary played that well without having much of a pass rush. Like you didn't
Right.
have it's not like something where like, oh, secondary played well because there wasn't a ton of time to throw. Like CJ had time and they were still able to cover at such a high level. So I think that gives you a lot of hope for the future. And I think it does calm some of because all offseason, Brian, I mean, defensively, that was the main concern. It's like, how good can the secondary be? Can you play with an Ohio State?
Right.
Secondary play with Ohio State tonight. They played
Right.
every bit with. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., as talented as he is, he's pretty invisible all night, if we're being completely honest. And Mecca
He was
had
catching
had
like
his
stop
plays.
routes against cover 3. I mean, made a nice sideline catch, but other than that, I mean, he had decent numbers, Ryan, but they were like not impressive numbers. He had 5 catches for 56 yards on 11 targets. I mean, 11 targets and you had 50-some yards. And we kept hearing, oh, he's their best receiver. He's better than Jackson Smith and Jigba. Well, he may be. But that means Cam Hart's about to win the Jim Thorpe Award because, I mean, not Cam Hart, but Benjamin Morris. There was a couple miscommunications in the game defensively, guys, which we saw. Those things are going to have to get cleaned up. I thought the timing of the twist and the fires today was not where you want it to be. That's game 1 type of stuff that's going to get cleaned up. And I thought the tackling was better overall, but except at one spot, and that was linebacker. I thought the linebacker tackling still wasn't very good in this game. Ryan, and I know that was something you had mentioned to me before the game or when we were before the show that was problematic.
Yeah, well, and I think down the stretch too, right? Like when you knew that Ohio State was running the ball to kind of run out the clock, like there were so many missed tackles on that last drive, especially. We've talked about the length issues with the JD Bertrand. Like I thought it really showed itself at times tonight. Like I saw a lot of missed tackles. I thought Jack Kaiser struggled to get off of blocks. I thought Marist was guessing at times. So, I mean, I just think the linebacker play in general was pretty sporadic and up and down throughout the night. And I think that the missed tackles, again, kind of reared its ugly head at a lot of points in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, defensively, it's going to be interesting to see how they build on this. Like, what can they there's things that they need to improve upon. There's no doubt about that. Definitely things they need to improve upon. But, look, we got a super chat from Casa Hodge. And, look, I feel like the defense, they played their tails off. They would get one good gulp of water and realize they had to go back out, back right out there. Reese play calling is too vanilla to win a chip. I mean, look, super chat from Matthew 211 GT. We'll get to all the offensive stuff, guys. But the reality is, the defense played well enough to win this game. It did. With all the mistakes and the first game mistakes, and some of it was the first game mistakes. Just look, you got to play better than that.
Yeah.
You held Ohio State to 21 points and under 400 yards of offense.
Yeah.
I mean, you held them to 150 something in the first half. I mean, defense played well enough to win, fellas, and it's the same story, right? Defense played well enough to beat Clemson in 2018. They played well enough to play it.
That's the thing. How many times have we said that after a big game? Well, defense played well enough to win, but the offense didn't show up.
Yeah.
Here we are again, and we didn't think we were going to have that issue this year. And again, 21 points. That's a championship defense. And the offense didn't hold up their end of the bargain, period.
Right.
And it's not because, and I will say it's not because parts of the offense didn't play, because parts of the offense did play well. Parts of it, don't get me wrong, but there were parts that played well. And, I'm excited to look at the film, to have more of an opinion on the offensive line. There were some things that stuck out to me live, obviously, but I hesitate to say too much about the offensive line before I watch the film, because it's difficult to truly analyze the offensive line.
From where we were in the press box, it was hard to see it. Right. From where we
absolutely.
were.
I mean, we're on top of it. I mean, it's
Well, let's go to the offense, fellas, and let's talk first big picture. Like I said, Vince and I kind of noticed some of the just conservativeness early, but it was like, they're backed up. I think their second drive starts and they're, kind of in their own territory. Their first drive starts at their own 15. The kick return game today was brutal. Brutal. Rest of the special teams was okay. Kick return was bad. They were setting too deep. They weren't aggressive. It wasn't good. You know, so you're like, okay, you don't want to, you know, first quarter have Tyler Buckner throwing shotgun bombs from his own goal line. Fine, okay, but it didn't change a ton. And you know, you come out in the second quarter or second half, and they took a couple deep shots. You know, you throw a wide fade. You had a linebacker fire come late that was delayed. That you hit Tyler Buckner. You know, you try to go deep on the next play, and you know, then Buckner scrambled. I mean, so you went 3 straight passes to start the third quarter, and I thought, okay, they understand they need to throw the ball deep. And then it was kind of like right back to the same old stuff the next time. It was inside zone, counter, you know, toss. I mean, it kind of went back to the same stuff, and you just kept waiting for them to say, you know what it was for me, Sean? I want to see if you feel this way too. For me, it looked like a game plan that didn't seem to have a lot of confidence in the perimeter players and wasn't going to allow the quarterback to be put in bad spots. And I understand that to a degree, but you're trying to go to Columbus and win a ball game. And the only thing you do by doing that is guarantee that you aren't going to win. Because as we said, what did we say before the game, fellas? You're not going to win this game 17-13.
No.
You know? And, I mean, you held them 21 points in your offense, and you lost by double digits. Unacceptable to me. And, yeah.
What stuck out to me, Brian, is that at the end of the game, I removed it. You know, a lot of times I put most of the onus on the players because I say, look, regardless of the coaching you receive, you have to go out there and make plays. If you're in position, as Ryan pointed out on the defensive side, Ohio State was able to run the ball, but the linebackers were in position to make plays. And they didn't make the plays. Either they didn't get off the block, Bo Bauer comes free, has Travion Henderson 2 yards in the backfield and just whiffs on the tackle. And it's like, there's nothing you can do about that from a coaching standpoint. And for me, I'm sitting here like, Tommy, even though Jim Knowles wasn't there physically for the Fiesta Bowl, like for the second straight game, his defensive scheme just has you like miffed in the second half. Like you can't score. And it's like they're doing the exact same thing that they did in the Fiesta Bowl.
They came up and pressed the receivers from jump. I mean, we said that. We said, Sean, going into the game, we said they're going to dare you to throw the ball downfield.
They're going to dare you to throw the ball.
And they weren't.
Opportunities were there. Like, really? One reception? You throw the ball to Matt Salerno more than you throw the ball to the guy that had the biggest play offensively on the first play of the game? Yeah. And the ways they weren't creative getting the ball to Michael Mayer. Like, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what
they missed a big opportunity early in the game, and I'm trying to remember which series it was, Sean. They lined up. I think it might have been Vince. Do you remember when it was? It was the first quarter, and it was a third down, and they started off with a 3-receiver look to the left, and they motioned Mayer to the right, and then Notre Dame was forced to call timeout. You guys remember what I'm talking about? And that motion, what it did is it caused Ohio State to come down to cover 0.
Right.
And they called timeout, and then they had to go back on the field, and Ohio State had adjusted to it. But it's like Notre Dame was still kind of calling the play they thought they were going to get, but Ohio State had time to game plan for it. And it's just another missed opportunity where you had what you wanted. And to your point, Sean, we didn't see them go back to some of that stuff. You know, they're getting Mayer the ball. We saw them playing in the boundary and some of those things, but it was like you're trying to throw them stop routes and, you know, comebacks. And, you know, the thing is, Ohio State, they got 6-1 corners. You know, there were some matchups that we didn't see them running across the field a ton. We didn't see them running a lot of levels in this game. I thought it looked like a very horizontally stretch-oriented pass game that, like you said, Sean, it's like there wasn't a ton of moving around. There was a couple the play action seam route to Kevin Bauman.
Never went back
to that. I mean, it was there. It was there. So it was.
And then the play. What was the play where Ransom I think it was Ransom that ended, or Hickman ended up getting hit in the back with the ball, or he got in Lindsey's face on the quick slant. And it was a third down. I think it was like a 3rd and 8. And Lindsey couldn't catch the ball because the safety was in front of him. I don't know if it was Ransom or Hickman. But Lorenzo Styles is coming across the middle just wide open. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, like, I don't know what Tommy is telling him on the phone when they're on the sideline. But, you know, if I'm a coach and I'm in that situation, I'm saying, okay, we got to get the ball to our guys. We got to go to Michael Mayer and Lorenzo. We got to get the ball to these 2 guys. Like, find a way to get them the ball. Like, that's what great in the Super Bowl, right? OBJ goes down. What did the Rams do? Like, everybody in the building knew Cooper Kupp was getting the ball. Like, we have to find a way to get him the ball. Our offense is stagnant. And you just didn't see that. There was nothing schemed. It was late that they finally got the switch route with Lindsey that he got open on. They schemed him open, or they got him in a matchup and got him open. It was like, dude, we can do this all night. They're playing us man to man all night. Like, use these type of rub routes, use these type of opportunities, bunch, do things. We didn't see a running back screen all night. As aggressive as that front was, they never threw a screen to the running back. Like, take advantage of their aggressiveness.
Well, here's the thing. You know who the only person that caught a screen tonight, Sean? It's Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer.
He caught a now screen and a tunnel screen. I mean, they worked, but like, where's that for Lindsey? Where's that for Styles? Where's that for Tyree? It's like Tyree was a one-trick pony tonight. Like, they just kept running him on jet sweeps. The only time they ran him up the middle was late in the first half.
And he was one tackle away from busting it.
One tackle away from going about 70.
Yeah.
That was like
the guy came from the side,
right? Yeah.
But it just.
It was almost like Tommy out. The O-line, in my opinion, I won't even hold them to the first quarter, because defensively, I expected Ohio State to come out aggressive. Mm-hmm. So I knew it would be tough. You know, I just wanted the O-line to kind of like hold the fort. And then in the second quarter, the O-line started to make progress. And they started to push them around a little bit. You saw Aldrich Estime starting to pick up steam in the running game. And I'm like, okay, here it is. This is when they really take advantage and control of this game. They had the opportunity to continue that in the third quarter and to say, yo, this is our game. And Tommy he got cute in certain situations. Like, when he was supposed to be aggressive, you get the 54-yard pass to start the game. You get in there, and then now you run the ball 3 straight times. No, this is when you pull a trick out the bag in the first quarter. This is when you take advantage of their aggression. This is when you do something different. You don't just run right at them now, because it's 8-9 in the box. They're setting up to stop that, and then you come back, and when it's time to run the ball and establish the run game, now you want to go 3 straight passes when you get into their territory. Yeah. Just no rhythm. I don't know what rhythm he's looking for. Do you know who the go-to guy is in his offense? Is it Michael Mayer?
Was tonight. I mean, they kept trying. I mean, they kept doing like, they were definitely trying to get Mayer the ball. I just don't think some of the stuff was overly effective. I'm going to look at his target numbers tonight, but he had 8 targets, 5 catches for 32 yards. And that Lorenzo Styles was targeted twice. They have Braden Lindsey down targeted 4 times. I do not remember Braden Lindsey getting targeted 4 times.
I remember twice. The one that he threw into a double coverage, and then the one he caught. Those are the ones I remember.
Yeah. You know, like, Sean, you were talking about.
He overthrew him once as well. He had him beat on one play and overthrew him. I think the Eichenberg came through and hit him.
He got hit.
Yeah.
I thought that was Styles. Styles was open once. They overthrew him.
You're right. That was Styles. Yeah. The call, double R.
Sean, you were talking about that drive where they started to get the offense going, and on that drive, you went inside zone. I believe it was inside zone just to estimate for 8. Then you ran duo back-to-back times. Then you ran a play action pass where they threw that little slide pass to Tyree for 6.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get in 3rd and 2, and this was the best play of the game for me for the Notre Dame offense. They go 3rd and 2 and line up twins to the left, or it was twins to the left, and it was a wing and the 2 tight ends and a wing to the right. And Ohio State was in cover 0. So Buckner looks like he checks the play. They move Mayer over to a trips, and they ran that wide fade to Salerno.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that was a great time to do that because they were going cover 0, basically. You were going to get one-on-ones, and you made a play. And then you go back to the next play was that pitch play action. You hit Bauman, and then it was a jet sweep to Tyree, then zone read. Then they ran the tonal screen. It was over the middle. So, I thought that was the best series of the game because you were running downhill, number one. Because earlier they were running, counters and, looks like – Ryan, I couldn't tell what that one play was. It almost looked like they were running like a G-wrap, early in the game where, they were just kind of pulling one lineman. I don't know. Maybe it was like a backside kick out. I got to go watch the film to see what it was. But it was like a slow developing misdirection. And Ohio State was being real aggressive. And so the counters and stuff weren't working. So that series, downhill, get some jets to get their eyes going this way, play action, taking some shots. And then the next series they come out and they go counter, quarterback counter, inside zone, counter. And then they 3rd and 11, punt, incomplete pass, punt. And it just all the momentum you had just kind of stalled.
Yeah.
And, they couldn't get that stuff going.
Yeah, so
Going.
I don't know how you guys feel, but I just don't. I'm looking for an identity. We were told, and I think what did they run? They ran the ball a total of 30 times tonight.
30 times for 76 yards.
76, yeah.
76.
Yeah.
There were a few sacks, obviously, but still.
Yeah, that's
3 for 19.
Yeah.
So 27 runs for basically 95 yards.
Yeah. And I think they had an opportunity there.
They just didn't have many plays on offense. They only ran 48 plays on offense, Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, so hey, Thomas L., my man, appreciate you, buddy, very, very much. It's a huge super chat. Appreciate you throwing this in because you guys are the best time to win out. And we're gonna get to this. Trust me. We're gonna talk about some stuff and vent and be frustrated, and then we're gonna talk about some other things. Somebody just put in the chat too, and this is something I asked of you guys. Where was Tobias Merriweather? Where was your 6'5" freshman receiver that has had a good camp that I know was making plays in scrimmages at different times? And I've talked to different people who said he was playing really well. That would have been a great matchup to go to against a team playing cover 0, and we don't see him. Again, that's my frustrating thing. Here it's like the game plan to me looked like a staff that had faith in the offensive line, but the offensive line didn't, to me, play to the level needed in this game. I thought they battled. They were fundamentally not where they needed to be, stopping their feet a little too much. They struggled with getting up the second level on combos. They had the hardest time picking up Mike Fires. I mean, all night long.
Yes.
All night long. Couldn't pick up. I mean, there's one where I think Eichenberg came through, and they just ran a simple slant across Zeke Correll's face, linebacker. I mean, guys, it's and Correll just no recognition of it whatsoever. To Ryan, I think it was you. The interior offensive line was incredibly disappointing, but it's not like the tackles were great either. So it's one game, right? But the reality is this line is going to have to get a lot better in a hurry because they called the game like they thought that line was going to play well. This was a game plan of coaches that thought based on camp that the line was going to be able to establish the ground game, and it didn't. And Ohio State did things to take that away with numbers. I mean, we can talk all we want. The line didn't play well, but the other problem was Ohio State was beating them with numbers, and there's nothing you can do about that. And they didn't do enough offensively to make them pay for that or to scare Ohio State out of that, in my opinion. Like you said, Sean, that play action. Where's some more stuff like that?
Yeah.
You know, like maybe not that play again, but stuff like that. You know, getting Mayer moving around in the backfield where you can't just get a body on him because they were trying to be aggressive and bracket him, so move him more.
Yeah.
You know, like there just was stuff like that, guys, where it's just like, but then they also coached as if they didn't have the faith on the guys on the perimeter. Well, I'll tell you what, I thought Lorenzo Styles made a great play early. Braden Lindsey made a great play on the only ball that he really had a chance to get. I mean, you know, you got to give those guys a chance to play because, I mean, how many targets did Jaden Thomas get targeted all night? I don't remember him getting targeted all night.
I think he had one target, if I remember correctly. I think he had one.
Yeah, one target, no catches, no yards. You know, like you said, Chris Tyree targeted one time. Last time this kid played, he had 6 catches for over 100 yards against a defense like this one. You know, hey, best way to get those linebackers not firing, have Chris Tyree be more involved in the pass game. Those are the frustrating things for me, guys, that we just, you know, you're sitting there watching, and it's easy from where we're sitting to look at those things and to make those adjustments and checks and frustrating things like that. But the reality is there were opportunities there that they should have been able to go to different things, and they didn't really try them. And I don't know if it was a lack of faith in the quarterback, a lack of faith in the receivers, or what. But and then they didn't really open it up until it was 21-10, and then Ohio State knows you're throwing down the field, and they started playing to that. It was, It was
I don't know when you guys were at the game. Ryan, did you hear when they were talking about their conversation with Tommy Rees during the week?
We couldn't hear anything going on during the broadcast.
They were like, we were talking about Tommy Rees through the week, and we were talking about some of the young receivers to watch, and he kept telling us, like, no, 29. And I'm like, what?
Seriously?
I'm like, why? Like, no disrespect to Matt Salerno.
I mean, he had a really good catch in the game.
No, absolutely.
It was a great catch.
From a program standpoint, like the one thing I want the broadcasters to talk about is Tobias Merriweather.
Yeah.
I want that to be heard to other recruits on national TV. Yes, talk about him. Even if you think Matt Salerno is going to be pivotal in this game. Like, and Kirk Herbstreit clearly said, we kept trying to talk about other guys, and he kept coming back to Matt Salerno. And that just struck me as being odd. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just found that to be very odd.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I'd have to go back and listen to it, but that's a little troubling.
And I'm like, yeah, this is, you know, and I don't blame, you know, I know a lot of people were throwing, you know, shots at Matt Salerno for the offensive pass interference.
That was a shaky call.
It was a shaky call.
Real shaky call. And my beef is not with Matt Salerno. Matt Salerno made him and Braden Lindsey made the 2 best catches of the game. 2 of the 3 best catches of the game. Michael Mayer's catch on that one he fumbled. It's a great catch. Yeah. But I mean, Matt Salerno battled his butt off, and it's not about Matt Salerno. It's about why did he seem to be more of a focal point than Braden Lindsey? You know what I mean? It's like the kid made the play that you needed him to make. You know, I remember another time that he was targeted. It was like triple coverage. You guys remember that? It was on the 3rd down, and he threw a backside dig, and there was like 3 guys there. I do remember that one now. But, yeah, it was strange. Like, no screen to Lindsey, no crossers where you're getting him in motion and having him out run guys. It just, you know, I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it was here's what it is, guys. The game plan they thought they could work with, a lot of 12 personnel, you know, getting physical, pushing Ohio State around, which teams could do last year, didn't work. Ohio State's better. Jim Knowles had that team ready to play. Your offensive line didn't play well. You got to be able to adjust to that. And I just didn't feel like they really ever got – they kept thinking like, no, this will be the series we get it going, and it just never got going. And, look, there's some throws Tyler's got to make in the game. He'll learn from. But I thought he battled his butt off. And that was another thing. It's like they didn't do it as much early to get him involved in the run game as I thought they should, like on the perimeter. Like I'm trying to remember the first time we saw read zone might have been series 3, 4, if that.
Well, they were first quarter. They were backed up a lot, right?
Fourth drive. We didn't see something till the fourth drive.
Yeah, they were. I know they were backed up pretty much the first 2 or 3 drives.
Well, what was the first play Tyler Buckner ever ran? It was zone read out of his own end zone.
Yeah,
it's like
that's true. Well, outside of the first play,
sure.
I mean, the next series they were backed up, and then the next series they were backed up.
No, I just meant against Toledo last year. The first play of his career.
Yeah.
Is what I was referring to. Yeah.
But it's not all bad.
No.
It's not all bad.
No. It's just frustrating, guys, because look, I wrote an article today. I know you guys checked it out, and it was like, this game is a measuring stick for Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Win, lose, draw. I mean, win, lose, win by 1 million, win by 3, lose by 3, lose by 1 million. You're going to learn a lot about where you are as a program. And what we learned about Notre Dame as a program is they still have a lot of work to do. And they have to do a better job, in my opinion, of, they have to be able to adjust better than what they did today. They have to be able to, say, hey, look, this is what this team is doing, and we got to be prepared for it. They've got to execute better. They've got to make more plays. They've got to put guys in better positions to make plays. Because in a game like this, guys, it's a play here, it's a play there. Like what did we say about Trevor Lawrence a couple years ago, right? He didn't get many chances to make plays in this game, but when he got them, he made advantage of it. And I feel CJ wasn't nearly as good as Trevor was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But in the fourth quarter, when they needed CJ to make some plays, he made them. And the reality is nobody at Notre Dame made those plays. And honestly, I couldn't tell you that I think they were necessarily put in those positions to make those plays. And that was the disappointing thing, because this offense should have been better than it was today, and it wasn't. And they didn't adjust the way they needed to adjust. It was frustrating. Yeah. And some of the stuff that was working, they went back to. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we've talked about it already. I thought the interior offensive line struggled, obviously, right? And there was a lot of interior pressure. I was waiting for, are we going to move the pocket at any point? Like, are we going to get Tyler on the edge? Are we going to throw a screen? Like, what are we going to do to counteract that interior pressure? Because it wasn't even the guys that we thought. Like, I was like, oh, Steel Chambers, Tyleek Williams, those type of guys. It was Tommy, number 51 is. I didn't even know who he was, if I'm being completely honest. Like, those were the guys that were causing interior havoc. Why are we not accentuating the best parts of Tyler Buckner's game? Again, is his ability to use his legs and get on the edge. Like, why was that not a part of the game plan or the adjustment, I should say?
Right. Yeah, Mike Hall Jr. was, especially in the second half, he was a menace. He was in the backfield a lot. You're right, Brian. You're right.
Should have got called for a targeting, by the way.
Well, they didn't call it because they deemed that he tripped.
Wasn't forcible?
No, he tripped before he started coming down over the lineman's leg.
But he put his head down.
He did.
Yeah, he dropped the crown of his head, but yeah.
He did. But it felt very much like the 20 championship game, though, Brian.
Yeah.
It felt very much like that. Like we outplayed this team. We should be up more. And they're all
my ACC championship, right?
Yes.
You're talking about, yes.
Yeah. And you knew the run was coming.
You can't hold a team down like that for 4 quarters, fellas. You literally can't do a better job of defending Ohio State than what Notre Dame did tonight. I just don't think you can. I mean, when was the last time Ohio State scored this few points? They scored more than this against Bama in 2020 in the championship game. I scored more than that against Northwestern 2018. Last time they scored this few points was Purdue in 2020 or 2018. And in that game, they had 546 yards. They just kept turning the ball over. And nobody turned the ball over tonight. That was weird. Am I correct? There was no turnovers tonight?
No. It was a well-played game.
Yeah.
In
that regard. Yeah. In that regard. Yeah. So I guess the thing for me moving forward offensively, the offensive line's got to play better. They got to get Jared Patterson back healthy. Jared Patterson, Chris Stopik was okay. None of the interior guys played well. None of them did. There was a block here, a block there, but overall, just Zeke started off bad, had a couple nice plays in a row on that touchdown drive, and then went back to just being inconsistent. Somebody said this too. Like after that early RPO, you guys remember them pulling and throwing an RPO at all that game?
Yeah, the first play of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The first
54
play of the
yards
game.
and then not again the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Like no, Tyler throws a beautiful outside go route, and we hardly saw it to the field. We hardly saw it. You know, screen games got to get worked on. Got to get worked on. Well, let me rephrase that. Screen games got to be used.
Got to be called.
Got to be used. You know, we saw what 2 tonight.
And they were all to the tight end. I mean,
Right.
I get that there's a time and a place for a tight end
Right.
screen, but we also have some really good running backs that can run the screen game too.
Yeah. They got to do more. First of all, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say I would like to see the power read implemented a little bit more too. I thought that looked good in spurts. Just they went to it a little late in the game, in my opinion.
Right.
A little late.
Right. And then one play they had it, and he runs into the back of the center. So
should they also put, and we saw this, Vince, during the practices, like they would go under center, especially in the run game, and like give some variety instead of a team getting used to seeing the same thing. And
I thought they did that a couple times when they were backed up, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but like do it a little bit more, because all night you said it, and Ryan, you're right. Way too many times, the defensive linemen were able to cross the faces of the interior guys.
Yeah,
and it was just like, this is a simple block. And Josh Love just let one guy just run by him to his left. Just he just looked at him and almost like pointed, like, here you go. I don't know. This is not what we saw, Vince, in camp.
No, it wasn't. I agree.
It goes back to what Brian said.
It's what we've seen the last few years. It was not what we saw. It's not the offense that we've seen in practice.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I think is the most frustrating for me, Sean, is that, you know, I feel like we almost look like frauds because, like, hey, this is what we're seeing at practice, and it's great, and this offense is going to be really good, and Tommy Rees is going to be, you know, super creative because we saw creative, you know, formations and all of these different things in practice. We saw none of that tonight, like none of that. And if you're not going to use it against the number 2 team in the country, then when are you going to use it? And why did we not see it?
This was the night to let it all hang out, fellas.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the biggest issue I have with everything tonight. It was just, I don't know. It's like they found the playbook from 2 years ago and they're like, hey, let's use this, you know, or the play sheet, I should say. It was super frustrating because they wasted a championship level performance by the defense when the offense should have had 30 points. They should have been up 2 to 3 scores in the first half. They should have been. And then Ohio State was already calling offensive plays like they were scared in the first half. And they should have been doing that the entire second half.
Game. Yeah, they called plays like they were afraid of Notre Dame's pass rush.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what should have been going on the entire second half because they should have been trailing by 3 scores. And they weren't. Because the offense couldn't pull their hand, you know, their part of the bargain. And it's frustrating.
Yeah. You know, I mean, God, I'm still just can't believe they held them to 21 points and under 400 yards of offense and lost by double digits.
You can?
Guys, like, here's the thing. Like, you know what it is for me? I'm thinking about this, and it's like I feel like we've had this conversation way too many times. And that's my frustrating thing. And here's the thing for me. I want to see Sean. I haven't read. I wasn't. We were in the car in the parking garage trying to get out of there so we get back for the show. So I didn't get a chance to hear Coach Freeman's comments after the game. But I'm really curious if those comments were just meant to, hey, I'm not going to throw my players and my staff under the bus, which is something we used to always get frustrated with Brian Kelly doing, right? We hated when Brian Kelly did that.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to try to find out, and what we're going to find out in upcoming games is was he just doing that, protecting his staff and players, but then go handle your business when you get in the meetings and when you get in the locker room, right? I'm all for that. We're going to find out if that's what he was doing or not over the next month. Because if we come out and see similar stuff these next few games, because here's what you don't want to do. You're going to come out against Marshall and run the same game plan as today and steamroll them, right? And it's like, it's great. No, you're way better than them. It can't just be you out talent people.
Right.
You have to do more to be effective. And so for me, I want to see them do things where you're going to look at Notre Dame and say, hey, look, they learned from that first game. And what does that mean? I think somebody mentioned move the pocket, get Tyler on. Vince, there's a couple times where I looked at you and was like, okay, this is the series where they got to get him out of the pocket, right? Like this is the series they got to get Tyler outside, right?
This is the series where they need to take advantage of zero coverage.
Right.
No safeties, one-on-one. Why are we not throwing the ball? And the one time they did, it was a completion. I'm basically sitting up there as an armchair quarterback, and I'm trying, or armchair offensive coordinator. We see it. We're literally sitting 20 feet away from where the offensive coaches are sitting. I know they see it. Why is it not getting called? That is super. That's high school level stuff.
It tells me, Vince, you don't have faith. That's what it tells me. I know Tommy saw it. If I saw it and you saw it, Tommy saw it.
Right.
It tells me he doesn't have confidence in his guys to make the play, whether it's the quarterback or the receivers or whatever. And that's just not okay. No. That's not okay to me. And, it can't just be, okay, play better, execute better. Yeah, if they would have executed better, maybe they'd have lost 20-17. Part of its execution. You're going to have game one execution things, guys, but I just don't think they were put in this situation enough. And this is the story. This is the part that I was trying to find in earlier, and I just couldn't get to it. But here's what it is, Sean. One of the frustrating things that you and I have talked a lot about privately on air is, you get these 10-7 leads, these 14-3 leads, these 14-10 leads, and you're like, look, our defense is playing great. Let's just not do something to put our defense in a bad spot. Instead of what I want to see, which is our defense is playing great. Let's take advantage of that by going on the attack. Because we know if something does happen, they can protect us a little bit, but we're going to make some plays. And that was the frustrating thing for me.
Yes.
Was
take chances.
Yeah.
What do you have to do?
Bombs every play. That's not what we're talking about. But
right.
You got to do more than what you did tonight. You got to do more. Move the pocket. Do some throw. There just has to be more than what we saw tonight. It's like early last year. Remember, there was the same thing last year. They were throwing a lot of in September, throwing a lot of horizontal stretch stuff, left to right stuff. And then later in the year, they got more creative, and it's tonight was the night for that, And so, so what do we got to see, right? We've got to see more creativity. What does that mean? Okay, number one, play your best guys. Get flipping Tobias Merriweather in the game. Look, defense threw out a couple freshmen. One of them got beat. We know what that issue was, but we saw another freshman go out there tonight and ball.
He's the best corner on the field.
Ball for either team.
Yep.
Balled. You got to give your guys trust. You got to go out there and say, hey, look, I believe in you. And if they don't make it, if they don't get it done, then you coach them up and you get better at it. But when you don't even give them the opportunity to do that, it just, you had, I'm going to look at this now. You had in the second quarter, you had 1, 2, see here, what was it? You had 2 opportunities in the second quarter to go up 17-7.
Yes.
And you, first one, you got into Ohio State territory and then couldn't do anything with it. The next one, your star player, is that the one where he fumbles the ball? I think that's the one where he fumbles the ball. You can't miss those opportunities in a game like this. You can't.
Right.
And then Ohio State goes down and scores, and then Notre Dame comes back. This is the one thing I just see. They come back the next series, and after Ohio State went up 14-10, and they threw a bomb to Lindsey. I was like, okay, cool. And then the next play they come out and they run a jet sweep to Chris Tyree, and it's like, okay, here we go. This is what we're wanting to see. And then after that, you had the pass interference on Salerno, and then it was power read.
Well, then you're first and 25.
And then they finally go to power read. Yeah. And then a jet sweep. Why are you running a jet sweep on 2nd and 18? They're playing off. Playing off. What were you doing there? And then 3rd and 18, you run a quarterback draw. And that's when the game was over for me at that point in time.
Now, was that the quarterback draw? That was a play where he could have thrown the screen to Chris Tyree.
It looked like it was a run pass option.
Yeah, he chose.
But again, 3rd and 18.
Why are you running either one? Yeah.
You're on the other side. You're on the other side of the 50 too.
Yeah,
so that could potentially maybe even be 4-down territory. Why? I felt like Tommy Reese had the training wheels on Tyler Buckner tonight. To be very honest, I didn't think there was any trust in him at all. If I'm
Ryan, on that play, could you guys see this from the TV? Notre Dame was, I think, in a 3-by-1 on that play, and they were basically giving you flood. They were going to give you a 10-yard completion on flood. To your point, you didn't have to get all 18 back.
Right.
I don't think you did. I mean, you were near midfield. You get 12 of those back, and hey, you know what?
And that goes to something else we just talked about, Brian. If we're talking about flood, sprint, and then we're getting the flood.
And that's kind of what I was thinking. That's kind of what I was
thinking,
to be honest with you, because you don't necessarily want to make that far field flood throw.
Sure.
To get them on a sprint out, and then if they do bail, then you've got Tyree running a slide or something like that. You can catch him and let him run it. And just there was just stuff like that I know is in the repertoire, or should be, and I'm pretty sure it is. Just never went to it. And that's that level stuff that we just didn't see a lot of. And I'll tell you what, one thing I did love about this game defensively, and it just kind of made me think of that. Y'all, Vince, you said Ryan Day was being conservative. I think he wasn't willing to tack down the field a ton. They still tried, and guys were covered. But it just seemed like every time they tried to counter with something, the defense was already knew what was coming. Remember the play? So Notre Dame was doing a little bit of switching early. And Ohio State started trying to motion, and then they were trying to do post-snap switches. And they ran a snag route with the outside guy and then a wide fade with the other. And they thought Notre Dame was going to pass it off. And then the corner would take the wide fade and then the motion guy. So they thought that snag was going to get up underneath and they catch it and maybe have some room to work. And it's nope, they didn't pass it off that time. It just seemed like Golden was always one step ahead of where Day was tonight. And a big part of it was, but here's the point I'm making is Al Golden called a game like a coach who was saying, hey, guys, I believe in you. Yes. Give you opportunities to go out there and make plays. Hey, Benjamin Morrison, I'm going to leave you one-on-one with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes.
And Emeka Egbuka. Go ball. And guess what? He did. And there was a couple times they'd mix up their coverages, and there was one, Vince, it was early, they tried to throw on I think it was Clarence, no, it was Morrison, because you looked at me and said Morrison was all over that. And that time they ended up bracketing because it was an ISO receiver on the backside.
Yeah, right.
And Joseph helped him out.
They wanted to go deep, but they went underneath because it was covered deep. Yes.
Right. But they played a game, they called a game defensively, hey, I'm giving you guys a chance to make plays. And some guys did and some guys didn't. So now you can go into that meeting room and say, hey, look, Isaiah, buddy, you're a first-round draft pick. You're an All-American. We need you to be better in these big moments. Hey, Jason, Adamiola. Now, look, and we can say, hey, look, they didn't call holds and all this kind of stuff. Guys, that's not it. Yes, there were some holds that should have been called. That's not it. Right? But I need you guys to play better. J.D. Bertrand, you're coming off a 100-tackle season. I need you to be better. Bo Bauer, you're a fifth-year senior that's literally played 5 years. You didn't redshirt. I need you to be better. And if you can't be, I got to give Junior a shot. Cam Hart, I can't have you playing grabby early in the game. You got to trust yourself more. And then after that, he settled down and I thought played better. Tariq, I'm going to put you on an island on Jackson Smith and Jigba. And guess what? Jackson could do anything on him. Hardly anything on him. And, he had 3 targets, 2 catches for 3 yards. Those guys stepped up and played. Tommy Reese and the offensive staff and Marcus Freeman, if what he said is how he feels, needs to stop being off. You got to look at the best teams in the country and say, this isn't 2012 Bama. You're not Georgia last year. And Georgia scored almost 40 points a game last year, guys. Okay, let's not forget that either. And this whole play to win 24-21 against a team like Ohio State, it ain't going to get it done. Because you stop them now, but in a rematch, you're probably not holding them to 21 again.
Not at all.
You're not. They're going to have more film of you and all that. But the reality is you got to coach like you trust your guys more. You just do. And if you don't trust the guys you threw out there tonight, then you need to put some dudes out there and give them a shot. Tobias Merriweather, give him a shot. Use your backs more in a screen game. It was frustrating. It's just frustrating.
One thing I want to learn about the offense here soon is defensively, I thought we did see a couple players that I would say kind of bring the juice to that respective side of the football. Like Brandon Joseph was a guy when he had that hit on Jackson Smith and Jigba, for instance. I felt like the defense really fed off of it. I don't know who that guy is offensively right now. Like, is it Michael Mayer? Because I hope it's Michael Mayer, but like I didn't really get the juice tonight, like because last year, Brian, even though the offense wasn't great in a lot of instances, you knew Kyron Williams was going to bring the juice, man. Like you knew that was the guy, and I think they need something offensively and just to kind of inject some positivity and energy on that side of the ball.
Yeah. I thought the offense played hard. But I think you're right, Ryan. There wasn't a lot of – but honestly, the guys that I think would be those guys weren't really getting the ball. I mean, that's the other thing is like, I don't know. It's frustrating. We got a bunch of super chats from Victor Stark and Matt, 2011 GT. We appreciate you guys very, very, very much. Ian Johnson, Mickens, O'Leary, Al Golden are coaches of the game. We had an offense in a big game. Just wasn't time. Why wasn't Tommy Reese the reason Notre Dame lost tonight? We had another comment similar from Stephanie Joyce, I believe, later as well. Tell us why Reese is not the reason that we lost. I mean, the reality is, guys, is there's not one reason they lost, but look, the offense did not do enough to win tonight. We don't believe that the offense was put in a position to play better. Harry Heastand's got to get this group playing better. Tommy Reese has got to get this group playing better. He's the offensive coordinator. It rests on him. Tommy knows that. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is the offense wasn't good enough tonight. It wasn't schemed well enough tonight. It wasn't executed well enough tonight. They were physical but not fiery. They didn't play with the energy. They didn't play with a chip on their shoulder like the defense did. And that's the thing. There was times when I looked at Vince and I kind of laughed. Like Maris made a tackle on a 3-yard gain and he gets up, fired up. I'm like, dude, they just picked up the first down. But you know what? Yeah. I'll take that because at least he's playing with some energy. Not everybody on defense was that way. Ryan, you're right about Brandon Joseph. I thought Benjamin, and like every time he'd force an incompletion, he'd give you this action. I thought Clarence Lewis played with a lot of energy now, a lot of confidence.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of confidence.
I thought he played well. I mean, I do. Yeah. I think he played well.
Cam Hart got smoked early, came back and battled back, played. You want to see that kind of stuff.
And that touchdown he gave up, if you go watch it, he cheated.
Yeah, he was trying to he
tried to undercut it.
Yes.
And if CJ Stroud goes just a little bit further to the right, Cam makes a play.
But
he put it perfectly.
They were running a stop or a comeback. I think it was a stop route.
Yeah.
And he tried to jump the route, but it's like you're a senior now.
Yeah.
You got to know when you can and can't make that play.
Yeah.
And because when you miss on that, what happened is exactly what happens. And sometimes you just say, hey, look, man, the guy beat me. It's third down. I'm just going to tackle him and we'll go to stop him.
He also has to know that Brandon has the front.
Yes.
Like Brandon was coming down for the bracket.
Yes.
So you don't take that chance.
Yeah. Right.
So Brandon's in front. He's going to force him to make the throw look perfect. And you just make the tackle and go to the next play.
Yeah.
So it was a bad gamble.
Yeah. And but he doesn't, what I like is he didn't let it just like, okay, I'm going to be in my head the rest of the night.
Yeah.
But like you said, though, I mean, honestly, with the exception of Brandon Joseph, the guys that we kind of looked at as the guys Notre Dame needs to be like, remember the show we did this summer, right? Like the stars got to play like stars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, that wasn't the case for Notre Dame. It wasn't. With the exception of Brandon Joseph, the stars didn't play like stars.
No.
It was the other guys, which go ahead, Vince.
And the other guy, the guy that played like a star was Stroud. He played like a star. He played like a Heisman Trophy contending quarterback because even on that final drive, I think so because When it was nut cutting time at the end of the game and they needed a drive to score to put the game away, there was multiple third downs where he got flushed out of the pocket, he scrambled, and he made plays.
There weren't third downs. They never got to third down on that series, but it was.
Did they not get to third down? I thought they were third downs.
But it was like second and shorts. But I get what you're saying. They were clutch plays, Vince.
They were clutch plays to keep moving the chains.
My
that's
thing
what
with that is. He finished like a star.
Yes.
And it's kind of like what I said about C.J. Carr on the boards last week. C.J. Carr in the opening game did not play well. But you know what C.J. Carr did in that game? When the game was on the line, C.J. stepped up and made plays. And sometimes as a quarterback, Vincent, I think maybe this is where you're coming from, sometimes you're just not going to have it. The other team plays great. I thought C.J. looked lost a lot of the game. And credit to Al Golden and the defense.
Absolutely.
But like you said.
When it mattered, he showed up.
Right.
He showed up. And so
those completions weren't exactly the wide open dudes, Vince. I mean, they were like blowing away on the sideline, like
only his guys get on.
Catch it. Yeah.
100%. And yes, everybody in the chat is asking about were they catches, were they inbounds? Yeah, they were. And I
didn't see the second one, but the one that was on the Notre Dame sideline where the guy slid. When I went back and saw the replay, he clearly got his right foot in my opinion. I thought that one was the catch. I never saw the replay.
The second one was too. It was I think it was Mayan Williams, and he got 2 feet.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was a great catch.
I didn't see that one.
I mean, they were all legit catches, and they didn't review any of them. And in the moment, I was like, why are they not reviewing the, but they were catches.
Isn't this where we've been, guys? Even on defense, when the game was on the line. I mean, you hate to say not fair to the defense, but even then, somebody needed to step up and make a play on that last touchdown drive. They went 95 yards on 14 plays. Like, I know you guys played great all night, but okay, the offense isn't doing it. Somebody's got to – Isaiah, I need you to step up. Jason, I need you to step up. Somebody's got to step up and make a stop there, and they couldn't do it. I mean –
like you said, Isaiah, before you get to that completion on the right sideline, you can't lose – you cannot lose contain.
Yep.
If you have to be fast enough to track C.J. Stroud down and get him on the ground or make him throw it away. You can't let him get outside of you and complete that pass. So that's that's the perfect opportunity that he had to put his fingerprint on the game.
Yeah,
his imprint on the game.
Right.
And he just didn't do it.
It sucks, Sean, that we have to say that about the defense in a game where they held Ohio State to 14 points for most of the game. But when your offense isn't doing it, but at the end of the day, guys, we can't keep asking the defense to make those plays in the fourth quarter. At some point in time, the offense is going to have to start stepping up. And I think moving forward, that's going to be the big thing. And I don't care if they go hang a 100 on Marshall next week. Fine. Show me something. It can't just – my point is, Vince, it can't just be the stats and the numbers.
Oh, right.
It can't just be where you go run the same game plan, but you're just way better than your opponent.
If it's the same game plan, we're going to have the same argument in the post game that we're having right now.
And then let's say they do make the adjustments. Here's the deal. We're going to break them down. We're going to talk about them. We're going to have a similar thing here that we have as coaches, and that is we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to break down the film, and that's what we do. But by Monday, it's on to Marshall. But here's the deal, fellas. In the back of my head all year until they get to Clemson, it's going to be, okay, cool. You made the adjustments. Tobias plays well. Let's say he goes out next week against Marshall, has 5 catches for 100 yards. Okay, great. Hey, you ran a bunch of screens and the run game got going, blah, 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 blah. Great. You're getting better, whatever. But it's not going to be now because of this game and the way the offense played, fellas. I'm not going to truly be able to evaluate the offense until November 5th. I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, so if they go hang up 56 points on North Carolina in a month, guess what? App State just hung 61 on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
40 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right. It's not until November 5th. And so this is the thing is the goal for Tommy Rees, right? We can crap on him for the next 2 months, or we can be critical of the performance tonight and say it's got to get better. And then what does that mean? And so we need to see those things moving forward. We need to see the offensive line play better. They've got to finish blocks better. They got to do a much better job of handling the line games, and the different things that teams are going to do at them. Because every team's going to watch. Okay, they don't pick up line games at all. They don't pick up Mike fires. They couldn't handle A-gap fires all night long.
Right.
Especially if the guy was hitting the A-gap from the opposite side. I mean, all that stuff's got to get better, fellas, and it should. and the talent is there for them to play better. But you got to start trusting that talent more. And that to me was my biggest takeaway. If I could sum it up all in one thing, say if you could, and I'm curious to hear your guys' answer on this. If you could sum up the offensive performance tonight in one sentence, for me, it would be they didn't trust their guys. They didn't trust their athletes. How about that? That's a better way of saying it. They didn't trust their athletes. That's what this game was to me. And that's just not something I can excuse. It's just not.
Yep. No question.
It's just not.
No question. There was no trust. There was no, I mean, you call it vanilla, you call it whatever you want as far as that is concerned. But I was really looking forward to some creative mastermind type stuff. And that's what I expected, and I didn't get it. And I'm upset. I'm upset.
I will say this, Vincent. Tell me what you think of this. I don't think it was vanilla. I don't think they ran Jones sweeps. They weren't doing the things that were going to attack specifically what Ohio State was doing.
There was no adjustments.
Yeah, or like okay,
running game plan, whether it works or not, we're sticking with it.
Yeah.
That's hard-headed to me. That's not coaching.
Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say vanilla, because I think if we were to go down the film, there'd be a lot of different things. It just wasn't the right things against this, which is equally as bad, right? I mean, it's not like, oh, this is a better – it's just – I think they ran some stuff. They never really seemed to say, okay, this is what Oklahoma State's doing and this is what we got to do. But again, some of the stuff was simple, Vince. Here's a real vanilla game plan. Every time they give us cover zero with no safety help, I'm taking a shot down the field. Some way, somehow.
100%.
I'm getting on the perimeter and I'm running a smash concept, or I'm running a flood concept, or I'm running a go route, or I'm running scissors, or I'm doing something. Like, there's none of that stuff. So like they were doing some things, wide fades. They hit a couple of wide fades or all, but it was never the stuff that you're like, hey, this is what you got to do to attack this defense. And that was frustrating. Very frustrating for me.
Yes.
What was the most creative thing they did in the passing game? A switch? I mean,
I thought it was that
anything.
play action to Kevin Bauman. That's what I thought it was.
Oh, well, yeah, off the
actually,
play action, sneaking down the seam.
Well, the 3rd and 2 play that I talked about, they were doing some post-snap switches, so like I said, I wouldn't say it was overly creative. I'm saying it wasn't vanilla. They ran a lot of stuff is what I'm saying, right? Like, it wasn't necessarily creative, and that's kind of the issue I had. There wasn't a lot of creativity to it. It was just a lot of stuff. And to me, vanilla isn't a lot of stuff. It's very few things. So it's not a defense. I'm critical, but that's not the criticism. It was something else. And that was kind of my frustration, because some of the stuff is I did want some basic stuff. Hey, it's cover zero, Braden Lindsey on somebody.
It was conservative. It was conservative for sure. And I know we talked about in the press box, you and I talked about, hey, you got your back up to the end zone, et cetera, et cetera. I get that. And I agreed with you at the time. I did. But when they got
out, it didn't change.
Doing the same thing. And that's the problem, when it was so obvious that they could have done things to get guys open in zero coverage. The safeties weren't even worried about the pass game. They had their eyes in the backfield the entire game. And that Tommy saw that. That everybody else in the booth saw that. That's the problem that I had. They're like, well, we can't do anything about it, so we're just going to keep doing the game plan that we've got. It was stubborn, it was non-creative, and it was conservative, and it made me very upset.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's very frustrating. It was very frustrating.
Conservative I would go with, Vince. Conservative I can go with you on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, to me.
It's a better word for it. I agree with you. It's a better word for it, because honestly, what they did in the run game, I didn't really have a huge problem with it. I just didn't want them to keep doing it. I
thought they did too much misdirection when it was clear that Ohio State was hitting the gaps hard.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
remember that one drive they had where they were running duo and zone, and
that was the first touchdown drive.
They were just going at the defense. Yeah. They needed to do more of that. Yeah. No more misdirection. No more.
Even the duo stuff seemed to be hitting slow to me.
Just let's go. Let's go.
The timing, I thought, in the run game was really off. Did you guys think that too? Like the backs were either getting downhill too quickly or too slow. It just, yeah. I mean, some of that's first game stuff to a degree.
Sure.
You know, because if I'm sitting there breaking down the Ohio State offense, I'm going to have similar, like, dude, what were you thinking here, and why were you thinking that? And they were pretty conservative too. They weren't vanilla, but they were pretty conservative. But I thought the difference was Ohio State tried to go after Notre Dame. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
They made Notre Dame make stops on them, and guess what? Notre Dame did for most of the game. They tried to go deep on them, and Notre Dame broke up passes and made stops and did things they needed to do. And I just felt like on offense, they didn't do it as much. And so, it's going to have to get better, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. Is we can say, okay, the season's over.
I mean, look, they've got 11 games to do it, and in the pregame show today or earlier, they all run together. Right. You said whoever loses this game is probably going to go undefeated.
Yeah,
I still have that thought.
Oh yeah,
right.
No doubt.
I still feel good about this team. I feel good about the roster. They need to adjust. Yeah. They need to adjust. Period. And they've got 2 games that you can call them get right games. You can call them whatever you want, but you got 2 games at home where we can see a lot of improvement. Right. Yeah. And if they don't improve, you're going to hear it here during the post-game show. We're going to tell you about it, but they have opportunities. And I will say that Tommy Rees isn't a dummy. Okay. He knows the game of football. He can watch the film and see what we saw. Right. He just needs to trust his guys, period.
Yeah. I mean, is this going to be the adjustments coming? Are we treating the symptoms that will resurrect, against Clemson?
Bingo.
Look, at this point, Vince, just to kind of like steal your enthusiasm, man, we're a top 5 program in the country, man. Like, it's time out for this crap. Act like it. You're a top 5 program. Act like it. Exactly. Stop going into games with the attitude of, we can just stay close. We can just keep it close. No, we have good players just like you. We have guys that can make plays just like you. And we're going to put them in position to make plays and put points on the board. That's how you attract top talent. That's how you get 5-star receivers and quarterbacks to come to your program.
Do what Tobias Merriweather, what Mike Mickens did with Benjamin Morrison.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. There's no way you can't tell me he couldn't come out and run a fly route or a switch route. What are we talking about right now? But just the overall, that's why I feel like, man, nothing's changed. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Even though we have positives, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
Big game offense didn't show up.
The symptoms are, okay, we're going to change this. We're going to prepare this way. We're going to do this different. We're going to do that different. Oh, we're going to put freshmen in on defense in the rotations instead of not playing them at all. Yeah, we're doing all these things different, but it's the same virus at the core. We're not playing like a top 5 college football team and program.
Not on offense.
We're not.
Not on offense.
Until that is changed. I'm all for wanting to run the ball, establish the run, and then go from there. But just to bang our heads up against the wall and be comfortable and play close to the vest and constantly hang everything around the necks of the defense to do it for 4 quarters, that's just asking way too much.
Yeah.
That's asking way too much. As I said before, they gave up the run in the 4th quarter. But hey, I'm sure they were worn out. Yeah, the linebackers did make the plays when they had the opportunity. They didn't get off the blocks. But, I mean, how many times are you going to ask them, you know what, cover us?
Mm-hmm.
I know we're not doing our job. Cover us again. It has to stop. It has to stop. And that's why that quote in the post game, and I have to listen to the entire post game.
What was the quote, Sean? I missed. I'm sorry. I got in here a little late. What did he say?
No, it was just, he was asked about the adjustments for the second half. And and Marcus Freeman said, quote, we wanted to run the ball and we wanted to keep them on the sideline. But then, without saying the whole thing, he basically said, I thought we did that. We came out first drive of the second half. We moved the ball into their territory. And even though we punted, I was pleased with that. And I'm like, no, you can't say that. Even if you felt that way, you can't say that. Not with the way things have been going in Notre Dame. You can't say that. Because that's the same thing that your predecessor, that's the same way he operated.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody next to him, if that was indeed what he meant, will let him know, like, yo, no, if you're trying to change things, you can't have that thought process.
Sean, I'm going to need to hear from somebody that with the locker room conversation with the coaches was different than what he said publicly. Like again, for me, I agree with what you're saying. You said your key comment was if he meant it. If he meant it, that's problematic. If he was just doing because what did we always got sick of Brian Kelly. Like he would do these things where he would the center's got to snap the ball better, even though you're running 30 pass plays in a hurricane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he would throw people under the bus. I'm fine if he said that. If I knew that the coaches, because what will happen is the coaches will meet in the locker room like together and then go meet with the team. If I hear that the coach conversation is different, then I'm good with what he said publicly. But if that's truly what he believes, that we're going to play field position game and all that that's not 2022 football that wins championships, fellas. And I don't care how good your defense is. I don't care how good your defense is, because Georgia tried that all year and it worked for Georgia until when? Until they had to play Bama in the SEC championship.
Alabama. Yep.
Right. So if you want to hope that the team that you play in the championship game's two best receivers are out for the rest of the year, not going to play in that game, then sure, go ahead and play that game. But you're not going to win a championship that way. So my hope is that, again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. My hope is that that's not what he really believes.
Yeah.
He was just protecting his coaches. I gotta hope that because it can't be.
But see, my thing is you can't. You're probably right. You can't say that. You can't. You have to know what you're replacing. The fan base does not want to hear.
I get what you're saying.
They don't.
You're not saying that it was necessary. Can I follow up, Sean? So you can keep.
Yeah.
You're not saying that in theory it's not necessarily wrong if he's just protecting his coaches. You're just saying because of that's how it was so much before that you got to be more mindful of that. Is that what
the fan base doesn't want to hear that?
Okay, I got you.
I'm pleased with punting? No.
Yeah,
no, who's pleased with punting? I'm not pleased punting on a video game. So I'm like, who's pleased with punting? No one's pleased with punting. There's no fan watching a college football game that is pleased when their team punts.
Yeah.
Sean, a punter might like to punt.
Possibly.
Sorry.
I was having a long conversation with my kid about the punting and the kicking, but that's because he's a punter and a kicker. So, but I'm just blowing you crap. But you're absolutely right. Nobody that is wanting their team to win wants to see the punter on the field.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. And to hear that, like you said, you don't know the meaning. You don't know what's being said, what he's covering up for. And like I said, I picked it up. That was like towards the middle end of his press conference. And I think the media was kind of just constantly badgering him about adjustments and what happened in the second half. But it's like, no, you can't say that. You just can't, not publicly. Because immediately my ears went up like, what do you mean? And I understood the context because he was trying to say with what we wanted to do, which was to keep them on the sideline. Like we moved the ball, we kept them on the sideline. And that was part of our game plan. And even though it didn't come out or lead to points, it's part of the thing that we wanted to do. But it's like, no, that's not good enough to win this game, though. Like, yeah, that might be part of the game plan that you wanted to lay out and execute, but you didn't execute it. Because I'm pretty sure part of that game plan was to score points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you didn't fully execute.
It's definitely a defeatist attitude. I mean, literally punting is giving up, right? I mean, you're giving up the possession. So I get it, Sean. I
And
agree with
Ryan,
you.
what you said, even after the offensive pass interference, the next 3 play calls would defeat us, right? Because before they scored the winning touchdown, what was it? 2nd and 21 for them? And in 2 plays, they're in the end zone. So it's like you still could have been aggressive in their territory, even though you got the offensive pass interference. But the plays, like Brian pointed out, and you guys pointed out, they were playing off. And you go to those play calls, it's like, yo,
Yeah.
It's like I just get the feeling right now. I'm not, like I said, I'm not even angry. I'm not even mad. I'm just like, hey, yep, been here before.
I'm disappointed. Like I don't know if mad is the right word. I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. You know, because I expected more, and I feel like we promised everybody in the chat, all 1,200 people that are watching. I feel like we promised them more because of what we saw. Right? We weren't just making it up. Like we weren't just trying to get people excited for no reason. You know, we weren't just seeing 12 personnel running it between the tackles all day long in practice. That's not what we saw. We saw more than this. That's why we were excited. You know what I mean? And it just, I don't know. I feel like Tommy let me down. That's what I feel like. All right. I'm feeling personally attacked right now, and I don't like it. That's where I'm at 2:00 in the morning. Now I'm starting to feel personally attacked.
Yo,
So, guys, keep talking about this, and the reality is we'll know this is different when we stop saying the same things after big games. Yes. And the reality is we're not gonna. I mean, I think maybe October 8th is a semi big game. BYU, but we need to get to November 5th and see that it's not the same. It's like, look, we're going to evaluate all the changes and the improvements and all those kind of things. And this guy's playing now, and the screen game is this, run game is this, O-line is playing better. They're going to have some games they're going to run for 1,000,000 yards, and Buckner's going to do this, and this guy's going to do that. But at the end of the day, that's all great, and I'm going to be glad to see that, and we'll talk about it. We'll be excited about that. But in the back of my head, fellas, Sean, I think you said it several times tonight. At the end of the day, I just want to stop saying the same stuff after every game of a quality opponent. Yeah. And again, this is Marcus Freeman's first real game again, this with his staff, where he's had the chance to build the team. It's his team's DNA. You can't blame it on Brian Kelly anymore, all that kind of stuff. But we said that this is going to be a game that for us is a game that tells us a lot about where this program is. And right now, this program made strides in some regards. This team played with defensively, played with a lot of energy. The team played hard, where last year we thought it was not a real physical team. They at least played hard. That's a good building block to build around. I thought Al Golden called a great game. The defense was very well prepared. I mean, you guys could see it. Ohio State's moving and readjusting and making calls. And the safeties and the corners are looking at each other, communicating, making checks and adjustments. I'll say one thing about the secondary, Ryan. You made a comment to me. This was one concerning thing about the secondary. Is I saw it too, but I want you to talk about the comment you made to me about Ramon Henderson, because that was a real puzzling thing for me, because he didn't play a whole lot in this game.
He played toward the end, right? That's the first time I saw him.
Yeah. So he was in at the end of the game, and I mean, I talked to Brian about this. I just thought the body language is a little off, man. Like he just seemed a little nonchalant in there, and it's something where I expected, if he's getting in, late in the game and trying to like prove his worth, quote unquote, right? Like I felt like there would be a little bit of fire under him, and it kind of seemed a little lackadaisical and just kind of slow-footed and not really wanted to get involved. Like I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, the body language just really screamed to me, and it just did not seem like, I don't want to say that he didn't want to be there, but like it just did not seem like he was engaged to me personally.
Yep. So,
which I'm really upset about, because I was excited about Ramon going into the spring,
Yeah.
into the fall, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know, but it was just something I noticed at the end of the game.
Yep. All right, let's get to some super chats before we get out of here, guys. We got one from Andrew Burke. He says, any chance Ohio State scores less points the rest of the year? My takeaway from this, guys, is, look, there was way too much hype put on their sophomore receivers in this first game, and they're going to be fine. But people are acting like they were going to look like stars in game one of their first, you know what I mean? Bowl games don't mean a whole lot. We've said this many times. Utah was throwing out a bunch of backup running backs and injury squad. Notre Dame was throwing out some athletes. They're going to be fine. I thought the run game, Notre Dame did a good job of shutting down the run game most of the game, but Ohio State kept at it. I think that's a good sign for Ohio State, and they wore Notre Dame down late. I thought their offensive line played pretty well in this game, to be honest with you. And I thought that they, at times, won the battle against Notre Dame, and at times Notre Dame won the battle against them. I thought both interior offensive lines didn't play great. Ohio State's played better than Notre Dame's. The difference was I thought Ohio State's tackles played better than Notre Dame's tackles for the most part. So that was a concern. But, no, this team's going to score a lot of points, folks. I mean, tonight was about Notre Dame. People keep asking, why did you think Notre Dame was going to win? Because I thought Notre Dame's defense could slow down Ohio State. I did. I've been saying it all offseason, right? But I didn't see this coming from the offense. I probably should have, just because we're so used to it. And honestly, if Brian Kelly was still the head coach, I probably would have. That's probably the thing that disappoints me so much. And Sean, I can see it in your body language too. It's like, I thought we were past this stuff, and they made an improved Ohio State defense look a lot better than it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of Buckeye fans that probably feel really good after this game, and they're going to face like some physical Big Ten teams and all of a sudden realize like, oh, some of the same things are still there.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because you have someone that comes in with a solid game plan that's going to take advantage of the fact that you're really putting 8-9 in the box because you can't have both safeties back. You're not built like that. If you could do that, you would do it. So you have to be aggressive because of personnel, and someone's going to take advantage of it. Like I can tell you right now, if they employ that game plan against Michigan with the playmakers Michigan has,
yeah, especially if Michigan will be letting JJ or Cade, whoever ends up being the starting quarterback, throw the ball down the field more than what we saw tonight. No doubt. No doubt. And the line's got to play better too, guys. I mean, that's the reality.
If Smith and Jigba is out for considerable time, they're going to struggle.
Hey, Sean, what were they saying about that? We didn't have access to the audio.
He felt it was the back of his knee.
Okay.
Hamstring area.
Okay.
And he was limping and he was frustrated. He kept trying to come back into the game, but it sounds like something that's going to be at least 2 or 3 weeks.
You know what I'll say, guys? You know something I just thought about too? One of the things, Sean, I think it was you and I talked about it a couple of times on shows we did together. We're like, how many times did we see Notre Dame players really make big hits last year? We saw several of those tonight, and not just the hit on Smith and Jigba. We saw a lot more physicality, especially on the back end. I thought, I thought there was depth. This is a team that definitely hit harder. Now there's still work to be done.
Yeah,
but in Brandon Joseph, man, good night, he was good tonight.
Well, didn't you feel like? Now this is funny. Didn't you feel like DJ Brown played okay tonight?
Played solid. Yeah, he played solid, good football. He's where he needed to be. Yeah.
Like
he was a little late getting off the hash a couple times, but that's just going to happen with DJ. I mean, but it wasn't like bad.
No. Brandon Joseph is that, and this is what I've been saying. Like, I'm not here talking about just individually just being a flat out better player, but he is a leader back there.
Right.
And he infuses the energy from himself into the others around him and kind of elevates them to be better than what we've seen. We saw that I saw it in the spring. It continued to see it in the fall. And you saw it tonight. You saw the fellas around him, like the entire secondary had a chip on their shoulder. The entire secondary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what out. Look, if Mike Mickens came to, when they started preparation for Ohio State, if Mike Mickens came to Tariq and said, that's your dude all night, then Tariq took the challenge.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, wherever he goes, you go. That's your dude all night.
They got to build on that. But, man, that was a good sign.
That was a very good sign.
Really good sign.
And you can see now the rotation is Morrison can be the guy to come in and fill in on the outside. And when Tariq needs some rest, because I think Mickey also played outside in the first half. He played outside in the first half as well. So that was really, really good to see that they had that much faith in those young kids to put them in the fire.
Yeah.
And you have to like what you saw. You have to like what you saw. As much as we're sitting here tonight, Irish fans, and it seems kind of melancholy, they're going to be a good team. Like, don't get it twisted. Like,
absolutely.
They're not about to fall off the ledge like, oh, man, they're about to go 8-4. Like, no.
What's funny is there's people on the board that predicted Notre Dame to get blown out that are now losing their minds because Notre Dame lost by 11 in the game. They led for about as long as they trailed, but whatever. Thank you for that super chat. Sean Michael says, this defense played with an edge. Agree. That was lacking during the BK era. No, there was plenty of times. I think it was lacking last year.
Yeah.
And in 2020, I don't think it would say the entire BK era. That 2012 defense played with an edge. The 2018 defense darn sure play with an edge.
Yeah.
So there's at least a couple defenses that I thought play with an edge. So I wouldn't say the whole BK era, but I definitely understand, Sean Michael, where you're coming from on that. Dennis Petrozuli, appreciate you with the super chat very, very much. Chief Brody says, are we 2018 Michigan after a close top 10 loss? I mean, I think this team has a chance to certainly be better than that 2018 Michigan team, with all due respect. Look, this is a Notre Dame team that everybody thought had no chance to win this game. We did. I think there's probably a lot of people nationally that are like, wow, this Notre Dame team, this Notre Dame defense is really, really good. Wow, we're shocked, we're surprised. I'm not. I'm shocked, and I'm not shocked at all how well the defense played. I'm actually shocked at how well the defense played, considering 2 of their 3 best players didn't play very well. 3 of their 4 best players really didn't play very well. If you want to throw Cam Hart in there, I mean, I don't think Cam played a great game. He didn't play a bad game after. The first touchdown drive, he got too grabby on the PI, and he took a terrible angle and gave up a touchdown. He settled down after that, but he didn't play great.
Yeah.
Maris played well, but didn't play great. I mean, that's kind of encouraging because we know Isaiah Foskey's not going to play like this all year, But
you guys were there. Did it seem like in the first half that the defensive line kind of played the run on the way to the quarterback? It just didn't seem like they really fired off the ball, especially off the edges. It was almost like they were just trying to push the pocket.
I think they were kind of having a little bit of issues with Ohio State's length is kind of how I saw it. I think they were having some issues. Ryan, I don't know if because I was trying to watch the secondary more since I was there, so now I'll go back and watch the line a little bit more. Ryan, what was your thoughts on what Sean just said?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Ohio State is anything at offensive tackle that you knew going into the night, you knew that DeJuan Jones has 36-inch arms just about and a 90-inch wingspan, and Paris Johnson's incredibly long too, So I think that for me, Sean, I do agree with Brian. I think that it's just an adjustment period, Like usually Isaiah Foskey can just outlength everyone right to the edge. Like that's his thing, right? The long arm. But he had to match the length versus length, and I just felt like there was no secondary moves kind of out there most of the time for the edges, like it was just kind of matching length for length, and you can't win that way. There's got to be a secondary move, there's got to be an inside counter, there's got to be something else, and I just felt like Isaiah Foskey specifically, he was just playing chest to chest with everyone, man, and it was just
he would stop the rush. It was almost like engaged. It was like he would just kind of like give up. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, where's the swim, the punch, the inside counter? Like, do something, you know? But I just found it interesting. I thought maybe they're really focused on stopping the run and not going.
That would be an explanation for what Ryan just said, is if they're only doing that one move, no counters, because they're playing C gap, not letting any. I mean, but it didn't look like that to me. It looked like kind of what we saw last year, Ryan, which was they got that one long arm move, and when that wasn't working, they didn't have anything else, and that move's not going to work against Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones. I mean, I didn't think they took advantage of. I didn't think Isaiah Foskey took advantage of his athleticism against DeJuan Jones.
Agreed.
And that was really disappointing.
Everything felt tight. Like, I just felt like they were going right down the middle, right? Like right down the center of the chest. And I'm just like, we need to take a wider angle here, right? Like, we need to work the outside track a little bit. Because I felt like even CJ escaped the pocket a couple times. And I was just like, they're taking really shallow angles, right? So now they have to redirect outside instead of working upfield and then collapsing back inside. You know what I mean? Like, it seemed like the angles were kind of funky too. I don't know if they were just trying to bully him. Like, I don't know, man. It was just, I think it was a process issue, if I'm being completely honest. I just think it was their process of how to get to the quarterback was a little off tonight.
Got a super chat from Craig and Eric. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Dennis Petrozzulli with a couple more super chats. Dennis, we appreciate you very, very, very much. Eric Montoya said, I came across you guys this offseason. I'm happy I was able to. You guys do a great job. Thank you. I have a lot of respect for you guys. Wish you the best the rest of the season. Salute. Eric Montoya, we appreciate you, man. Ohio State fan, obviously. Come on with respect. We certainly appreciate that very, very much. Best of luck to y'all rest of the year. I just still feel like this is a disappointing game that Notre Dame should have played better. Matt, 2011 GT, another super chat. Tom Reese stinks of BK. I'll say it. If it's not one game anymore, it's not debatable. I mean, look, you can't just say it's one game. That's the thing about it is, and I think that's to Sean's point. Like, if the defense would have played not great tonight, I would have had a lot more. Hey, here's why. Played a great offense, and they're learning, Al Golden's ways, and he's still learning his players. Like, I would have had some stuff where I could have been like, you know what, guys, like, look, it's first game. We're going to be all right. They're going to be fine. But to see the offense struggle like that against a defense that I just don't think is that – it means better. Look, it's definitely better than it was last year. But it's not putting Notre Dame to 10 points better. That's the problem. Right. And that's the frustrating thing is you can't and Jared Patterson's not the difference between 10 and 31 points. Shouldn't be anyway. And that's the frustrating thing. And it's partly Tommy Reese. It's partly the players got to execute. Coach Heastand's got to get this group playing better. It's one game though, right? Like it's one game, but it's also not one game. Like in looking at 2022, it's just one game, right? Now they got chances to build on this, and there's going to be Marshall, Cal, North Carolina, BYU coming up, and you got another stretch of incredibly winnable games to play to Clemson, right? So you're going to get another crack at this thing in November. And you need to see them play better because that's an even better – and here's the concerning – that's a way better front seven than what they faced tonight, in my opinion. And so they're definitely going to have to get better. I think the Ohio State secondary is a little bit more athletic and talented than Clemson's, but the front seven is definitely better. So if we're still talking about this one bad game on offense by the end of November, then we'll be okay. It'll be fine. It's a bad game. They bounced back. They played well against Clemson and BYU and USC, and Notre Dame's 11-1, and they're running the table like we think they were. But, the problem is it's always been, just this one game. Well, they were great except for that one game. What was that one game? Oh, it was the ACC championship. Oh, it was the Rose Bowl. Oh, it was the Cotton Bowl. Oh, it was, at Miami. Oh, it was at Michigan.
Here's what gives me positivity moving forward, okay? Marcus Freeman's the head coach at Notre Dame. He was the defensive coordinator last year. Do you remember the post-game show after Florida State, after Notre Dame's win? If we didn't know that Notre Dame won that game, if we were just focusing on the chat, you'd have thought Notre Dame lost that game because of the way that Marcus Freeman called the defense, okay? He went in. He did a self-evaluation. He went in front of the team and said, look, man, my bad. We're going to get this thing cleaned up. And he did. And that defense was light years better by the end of the year. Okay. I'm going to be positive about this, and I'm going to say that Marcus Freeman is going to go after this game. He's going to enjoy that plane ride home. And he's going to look himself in the mirror and be like, hey, where did we fall short this game? Where do I need to make some changes? Not saying he's going to change the staff. That's not what I'm saying. But making changes to be more successful moving forward. Let's see if he can do it. He has a track record of changing things for the better as a coach with his unit. His unit is now the whole team.
Right.
I'm gonna hope that he can do that. Okay, so I'm gonna be positive about this moving forward. Am I happy about the outcome? Of course not. I've already very clearly explained all of that. But I do have faith that Marcus Freeman is still the right guy for this job. And I think that he can get things turned around. Yeah. And you've got plenty of opportunities before November to get this thing where you need it to be. So, and that's the other thing. Notre Dame has opportunities on this schedule to beat good teams so that we don't have to have this conversation again for the rest of the season.
I know Sean hopes that is the case, that Marcus Freeman looks in the mirror and is like, nope. If this is what we were thinking we would be, that they look at him like, no, nope.
Right. I'm hoping. I'm going to hold out hope, and we'll see.
I get it.
He's learning on the job. Like, I'm sure every coach that's ever coached at Notre Dame has had the aha moment. Okay, Notre Dame, this is different. Like, you think you know what it's like to be the head coach at Notre Dame, and then you have the moment. And you realize, like, okay, this place is different.
And when he was asked about the identity of Notre Dame, hey, we're going to run the ball, we're going to stop the run. That sounds awesome. It sounds great.
Right.
But you have to be able to adapt. And I'm hoping that's what he takes out of this game, is that we had to adapt offensively and we didn't. And have that conversation. You got dudes, you didn't play him. Let's go.
Right. Because like you said, Sean, I mean, he's going to learn. He will not be defined by his first game unless he refuses to not learn from it. And there's nothing in Marcus Freeman's history that makes us think he will just kind of sit back and like, okay, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. There's nothing. Whether it was we're a 4-down defense at Cincinnati year one, it ain't working, so you completely switch to a 3-3-5.
Yeah.
We saw him make adjustments last year. He's going to make adjustments. You just hope that they happen quickly. And you've got, 8 games between now and Clemson, I believe, right? 7 or 8 games. Because that is that's game 9, and then it's Navy. Yeah, so 8 games, 7 games between now and Clemson. Navy, Boston College, USC. So it's game 9. So you have 7 games. You played 1. You got 7 more games.
Yeah.
You want to see those adjustments and those changes, right? And I also, this is going to be a learning experience for Coach Freeman, because we're going to find out how he and his coaching staff and his players respond to a loss. Any coach will tell you, guys, anyone that played the game, say, look, how you handle yourself when you lose is going to define your character more than how you handle winning. And if Marcus Freeman is the man that I think he is and the coach that I think he is, I think this team's going to come out a little pissed off next week. Yes. And that's the biggest thing, guys, more than the game plan, the play calling, all that. The biggest thing I'm going to look for next week is I want to see if this team comes out pissed off, because it's like that's going to tell us a lot about the leadership of this football team. Remember when Notre Dame lost to Georgia a game in 2017? They should not have lost. They had every opportunity in the fourth quarter to beat Georgia in 2017.
Yeah.
Drew Tranquil said after the game, he was pissed. Like, I feel really bad about the teams we're about to go play. And then they ran for over 500. They couldn't run the ball at all against Georgia that game, remember? What did they do the next week? They came out and ran for over 500 yards against Boston College, and then just steamrolled everybody they played moving forward. And I think this team should be better than that. So I want to see this team come out and play with the piss and vinegar like we've seen that 2017 and other teams do. That's going to tell me as much about this leadership of this football team as do they immediately make the offensive play call changes or defensive personnel changes or special teams changes or whatever the case may be. That's all important and needs to be done. But I want to see how this team responds from an attitude standpoint next week. I want to see a team, guys, that comes out pissed off. Ian Johnson, thank you for your super chat. How can you have receivers only get 3 receptions? I can't say I disagree with you. Sean Michael, odds Marcus Freeman's first call for a new offensive coordinator is Brian Hartline. He's not making any calls for an offensive coordinator. I understand where you're all coming from, but it's just
not in September.
Yeah. Matt 211 GT, appreciate this other super chat. Really appreciate you, Matt 211 GT. I don't want to hear this is an overreaction. This is a program changing opportunity. It's been 3 years. It's been played out. I mean, look, you can it's not an overreaction to the game. I think the only overreaction is to say this is what it is and it's not going to change or get better. We don't know the answer to that, but it has to change. It can't continue to be this. There's no doubt. Super chat from Craig Sebring. If we struggle on offense versus Marshall, I think Freeman needs to have a serious meeting with Reese about the offense. Yeah, if they struggle on offense against Marshall, there's major problems, guys.
No doubt.
Major problems. Patrick Flanagan, super chat, plays that work get quickly shelved. It's the square peg in a round hole approach.
Yeah.
Michael Burke with a super chat. Thank you, Michael. Frustration from one loss doesn't prevent 11-1. Yeah, I mean, that's what we said. If Notre Dame loses this game, we think they're going to run the table because we think they're going to respond well.
And I still think that we can still be frustrated about this game and still think that there's good things in the future. You can have
they did play the number 2 team in the country on the road tonight. This isn't a justification. It's just like it's not like they lost to Cal 21-10, right? We just need to see how they respond. Tonight, it's not okay. I want to make sure that Sean, like, for example, I'm not saying that because it's okay. It's not okay. Like, if Notre Dame would have gone out tonight and played their balls off, played just hard as they could have, and played well, and you know what? Ohio State was just better than you tonight. I can live with that. Well, I'm so annoyed, and I think where Sean's coming from is that's not what happened. And I think what we're all coming from is that's not what happened. You didn't get outplayed by a team who was just better than you tonight. You should have beat them. You should have beat them, and you didn't do it. And that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of having that conversation where that was not a better team than you, at least not how the score showed. They were not a better team.
At least not tonight, they weren't.
Right.
Yeah, I just, it goes back to what we talked about all summer. And Vince, I don't know if you felt this way. That's why earlier when you said, they held this team to 21 points, I thought it was going to be around 27, 28. Like all these people that were predicting 45, 42, I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like, one thing I knew is that this team was going to fight and compete. That's one thing I was sure of. Just from what I saw in practice, I'm like, okay.
Sure.
They're going to compete. And Vince made mention of this one time we did a show after practice. And Vince pointed out, like, yo, this secondary is looking really good. Like, now it's practice, and they might be cheating on some play calls, but they look really good. And people are like, I don't know. And like, okay, this is a litmus test for this secondary moving forward. You have to feel pretty good about how they're going to be. And most of all, they came out of this game healthy.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Because usually when you have a big game like this, you lose someone major because of how physical it is.
Ohio State did.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. I do not want to see that. I love watching Jackson Smith and Jigba play.
Yeah,
I really hope that's not a big thing. And Vince, none of us are saying that we want that to be a thing. It's just the obvious of it. That does happen in big games. And
that's right. And they did lose somebody, and Notre Dame didn't. That was the only point I was making. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And yes, it was a clean hit. Somebody in there was complaining about it. Totally clean.
Sean S. with a super chat said Freeman did mention they have to attack and not just hold on. To paraphrase, I haven't seen the whole PC yet, and that's the thing is I haven't seen the whole piece. I haven't seen the PC yet, so I'm trying to be careful. But it's going to be interesting to see that. And then David Carpenter's with super chat. Thank you, David. Sad for the outcome. Do you think Tom Reese is on evaluation the rest of the year, a la Elson in the bowl game, or do you think Marcus Freeman is still learning how offense should look still? Like Marcus Freeman's been coaching a long time. I think he knows what an offense is supposed to look like. 100%. If Marcus Freeman is the coach I think he is, he's not going to overreact to the first game.
Correct.
But you also can't underreact to the first game. You have to have that healthy, hey, man, what happened? Let's figure it out. What's going to change? What would you have done differently if you could go back and look at it? What are some things maybe we should have seen? Because sometimes people throw stuff at you you're not prepared for. Honestly, though, Ryan, you did a lot of studying of Oklahoma State the last years for draft and this kind because they had a lot of kids eligible for the couple really good players eligible for the draft last year. I shouldn't say a lot. Did you see a whole lot of stuff tonight that you were like, gee, I wasn't expecting to see that? I mean, you talked during the breakdown on Wednesday or Tuesday about the linebacker fires that they would bring. I mean, I didn't see anything different. Did you see anything that you were completely unprepared for tonight?
I didn't even see as much as we talked about, if I'm being completely honest. Like, did you see the nickel defender blitz off the edge much? Like, I didn't really see that. I saw
runs, a couple times, maybe like run fires, but
yeah,
we didn't get a chance to see
more like
linebacker.
Yeah, I saw more like, dog egg blitzes, that type of thing, which you should be prepared for. I think that's accentuates again the fact that I thought the interior offensive line had a rough day. Really think they had a rough day overall.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's going to be the last super chat, fellas. I want to appreciate all three of you guys are getting in the chat with us tonight. Obviously, it was late. Appreciate all the thousands of people in the audience tonight. Y'all, I'll tell you what, a lot of people frustrated in the chat, but I felt like people handled themselves pretty well. I get the frustration, and it's not okay to accept a loss like this. This isn't one of those, hey, moral victory stuff. Sean, we talked about this, man. I'm sick of moral victories. This isn't a moral victory. This is a loss. It's only a loss. What it shows is that Notre Dame is a little bit more athletic and better than people thought on defense. That group got disrespected coming into this game. People thought they were going to hang 40-something on this Notre Dame defense. We tried to tell y'all that bowl game was the anomaly. That's not who this defense was. It was the anomaly. And they showed that tonight. And it also showed that there's some young cats on that defense that are going to be really good.
Yes, sir.
And I was happy to see that. But, just one of those things, fellas, where they've got to play better. They got to play better. And they got to make the changes. And I'm sick of talking about moral victories, because this was not a moral victory. This was nothing but a pure loss to a team that you should have beaten. Simple as that.
The missed opportunity is what it was, and in so many ways.
Yep. Sean, as we kind of head out of here, I'll give each of you guys a chance to say a little send off, kind of your final takeaway, whatever you want to see, whatever you want to say as we wrap this thing up.
No, let's get ready for next week. I kind of treat this like Marcus Freeman treated the Fiesta Bowl. That's done.
Yep.
Let's get ready for Marshall. First home game. I'm excited. I get to see my boy Ryan. We get to go grab some good eats in Chicago and watch a good football game. So it's a good week. It's about to be a good week.
Hey, Sean, are you coming down next week to the game? I know you're going to meet with Ryan in Chicago. Are you going to be at the game next Saturday?
I will be.
Okay,
yes,
so
sir.
Hopefully we get a chance to see. We're going to have a tailgate, Irish Breakdown tailgate next week. Vince and I will be back. We're going to get up in the morning and drive back to South Bend. We're both in Columbus, as you can see from our backgrounds. Vince is in his hotel room. I'm in the office downstairs.
My flag.
We'll break the film down, and we'll have tomorrow. We may get started a little later tomorrow night, just because it just depends on when Vince and I get back. But our plan now is for 7, but we may bump it back till 8. But that's why you need to have that notification bell hit, everybody, so you know when we're going. I will try to post on the message board and on Twitter if we are going to move it back. But right now the plan is for 7. We'll try to look at it more from an X's and O's standpoint, maybe just some things that we saw. Sean and Ryan will be back on Monday at 1 p.m. for a recruiting show. They'll break down the weekend's action, also talk about the first weekend in college football. There were some very interesting outcomes this weekend, fellas. So I got the Notre Dame score wrong. I did pick Florida to beat Utah, and I believe that Florida did hold on to beat Utah at the end of that game, I believe, correct? So, and wow, you know what? As crappy as tonight was, I'd much rather be Notre Dame than Oregon. So that is for darn sure.
Yeah, good.
Or Nebraska. So there's no doubt about that. Ryan, anything you want to kind of say on our way out of here?
I don't want this team to be defined by this first game. I want them to be defined by how they react and how they come back from the first game. So That's just it, man. I just want to see a good football game next week. I want to see us gain momentum to that Clemson game, BYU game, everything in between. I think that it's going to be defined by how you handle the adversity moving forward now.
Vince, how about you?
Now, I you know what? I'm excited to dive into the film and then put this one to bed. That's what I'm excited for, and I'm also excited to put myself to bed.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of yelling in the car on our way home tomorrow. Because what we're going to do is whoever's driving, the other one's going to be watching the film. There's going to be this random shouting, "Are you freaking serious?" And the other person driving, like, "What the frick? What did I do?"
Yeah.
Not you, it's the film.
Our car is very So we may die on the way home. That's probably what's
Why don't you guys get in a wreck? Vince just started yelling at me, and I don't understand why. Found out it wasn't about me. Look, I thought we saw some positives. This team played hard. This team didn't play well all around. They played hard all around. Now they got to clean some stuff up and come out and turn it around and be better next week. That's going to be the key. This game sucked. It was a game they should not have lost. But guys that have shown potential in the past didn't all of a sudden forget how to coach or forget how to play or forget how to execute. This team will bounce back. The question is can Marcus Freeman be the guy that can teach this team how to win big games? That's the key. And as of today, he has not. He'll get several more cracks at it this year, folks. And I look forward to seeing what the response to this game is going to be from the leadership, from the coaching staff, and from the fans. So let's make sure that we are still locked in and talk about the things that need to be improved upon, but also enjoy some things we saw well tonight, because there was at least one potential future star in the making that we saw tonight in Benjamin Morrison, because Ohio State sure tried to take advantage of him, but he balled out, fellas. So that's going to do it for our show tonight. Remember, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, we will have the Upon Further Review. 1 p.m. on Monday, we will be working on Labor Day, buddy. We'll be putting in labor on Labor Day. Sean and Ryan on Monday at 1 p.m. Then Vince will be on the show at 6 p.m. Eastern handling IB Nation Sports Talk.
We'll see who the co-host is.
Who was released. He is home, correct, Vince? Sean was allowed to go home today after getting the pacemaker put in, so that's good. And I said, Vince, how's Sean doing? And Vince like, well, I think he's doing better because he keeps texting me a lot of questions about what kind of we're doing and how things are going. So that was good. But we certainly missed him. Certainly the content missed him, and we'll get him back here super soon. Appreciate all y'all's prayers. Absolutely appreciate y'all prayers for him. But we're going to have another week. We're gonna have one more session breaking down the Ohio State game, and then it's on to Marshall. Then it's on to Cal, and keep this thing rolling, because I didn't see anything tonight, fellas, that makes me change my stance of the loser of this game runs the table, right?
Nope.
Now, we just need to see them improve and get better and play Tobias Merriweather. For the love of all things holy, that's my final takeaway, Sean. If we don't see Tobias Merriweather playing early and often next week, I'm going to lose my stuff. I'm going to lose it, okay? So do with him on offense what you did with Benjamin Morris on defense. Do that, and I'll be happy with next week. So everybody have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. And thank you all so much for being with us here on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.